Today, we are breaking down CBS's brand new 2026 NFL mock draft. Let's get right into this. If you guys are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Below my face is my board, is based on my all 22 grades. Every player with an asterisk next to their name needs to be updated and probably are going to be dropped. So keep that in mind. There are over 290 players that you get full access to, along with a full breakdown of exactly why I have them ranked where they are. Along with that, you have access to every single rookie's performance in the NFL, as well as a full stock report of the biggest winners and losers per week. So feel free to go check that out. It's $5 a month on the Patreon. Some extended videos for stuff like positional rankings, as well as some exclusive videos on stuff like Malachi Lawrence that's going to be coming out in the next week because he ended up being evaluated after I ended up doing my edge ranking videos, and I want to show you guys why I end up thinking that. So it's a great program. You guys have already been showing so much support there. We have over 40 members, so thank you guys already for that. That's an incredible, like within 2 month acceleration. So I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it, and yeah, excited to go from there. Round number one, pick number one. I don't believe there's going to be more than one round in this, but the Saints go LaNorris Sellers, quarterback out of South Carolina. I have never graded, by the way, or reviewed a mock draft by Blake Brockermeyer, so I'm excited because this dude looks like he played football. He looks like a Giga Chad, which, to be fair, our King Mike Renner, friend of the show, also is a little bit of one too. But these guys know ball, so I'm excited for this not to be the stereotypical horrific CBS mock draft that luckily I think Mike ended up really saving, and hopefully Mr. Brockermeyer can do the same. But LaNorris at number one. I definitely believe LaNorris still has the highest potential of the entire class. I do think there's massive discrepancies with the quarterbacks from where people believe they were at the start of the year to where they are now. And I know guys like Todd McShay still have, Garrett Nussmeier as their number one quarterback and such. I'm not there personally, but, you guys can again see my board and then see the exact quarterback rankings. Everything has pretty much been updated, especially in the quarterback room. I'm very up to date in that over every other position because I want to make sure, especially since there's so much movement, that we end up staying on top of things. But LaNorris still is showing so much potential, and he's growing throughout a pretty tumultuous start to the year, and that's great to see. I mean, I wish it didn't start out as slow as it kind of did, but it is good to see that he's already picking up some steam in the middle of the year. At number two, the Carolina Panthers go Ruben Bain Jr., edge rusher out of Miami. I mean, it just depends on how much faith you have in Scorton and Umami Ellen to develop. It's like depending on whether you take one here in the second or else you start, still throwing shots at number two, rather than going in the second, the third, and kind of taking more of a dart throw in that approach. You're kind of going after the sure thing here, which I can't blame you if you do. Ruben Bain, I've seen Tamba Hali as the comp thrown out there, and I love it. Justin Houston, some other people like to throw that out there. I really do like that comp because I don't think he's athletic enough to garner any sort of Myles Garrett comp, but Ruben Bain has the physicality and the ferocity to be a very effective player in the NFL. He's my number 10 player. I really, really, really like him. Again, it's the conditioning that I do think needs a little bit more work, which, fingers crossed, especially during the combine, the answer will certainly be apparent as to whether you can kind of trust him outside of Miami's program. So I believe that he should end up being like a top 2, top 3 player on my board. But right now, I'm just still wanting to see a little bit more of the athletic portion. Regardless, he's my edge one coming into the year, technically edge 2 with Malachi Lawrence, and that is not changing. At number 3, we have Peter Woods, defensive interior out of Clemson, going to the Tennessee Titans. I do not believe that the Titans should be really addressing defensive interior over the multitude of other positions they should draft. Particularly for me, I think Jordan Tyson's a true wide receiver one, and this is a team that needs to continue investing in their number 1 pick from last year. However, I think Peter Woods is better than the numbers suggest by a country mile. And again, I was someone who's a little bit slow to the Peter Woods hype train. He was about number 11 on my board coming into the year. And obviously now, the more I ended up watching him, the more I really think that he's being extremely underrated, except for people who are like really taking the time to sit down and watch Peter Woods specifically. And I can't blame y'all. You watch the game tape and he ends up doing really, really well. But then you look at the stat sheet, not so much. But when you watch the player themselves, the actual film, this guy still is absolutely dominant. At number 4, we have Caleb Downs, defensive back out of The Ohio State University, going to the New York Giants. Best player available, never the bad idea, never the worst idea. He is the probably best player in the entire class. He's been dominant since his true freshman year, and he's been continuing to dominate. Just a reliable presence. Some guys that you just can't go wrong with, and especially if there's going to be some new management involved with the Giants, building from the ground up with just best player available is the smart thing to do when you can end up making an impact on your team with someone like Caleb Downs. At number 5, this is the second time in a row, I believe, I've seen the Raiders go CC Francis Maui Goa, right tackle out of Miami. I'm just not okay, here we go. Day one starter at right tackle, though I think he can excel inside as a guard. You know what? If that's your opinion, by all means, that's perfectly reasonable. I think CC is going to be more of that fringe starting quality tackle and then a true starter quality at guard. That's still very solid nonetheless, but I'm just more of a Spencer Fano guy. Again, some of these guys definitely have not been up to date. These are only grades that I do in all 22. So I can't just sit there, watch week to week, and then adjust the grades accordingly. I think that's a little disingenuous to the level of quality that I put upon myself to give you guys grades that are accurate, because I don't want a cameraman to be very, very effective at being able to, or at least I don't want the camera angle or, certain ways that they end up filming to dictate how I grade. I don't need that to be a factor. I want to be able to pause it, be able to watch things from multiple angles. That's why I love all 22. It's amazing. But I digress. I'm still able to make some certain comments about stuff. And, if there's stuff that's big changes, you guys see the star for a reason, right? I want to be able to communicate areas where I think I ended up being a little too high in the beginning. Regardless, the Raiders need offensive tackle. I'm just more of a Spencer Fano guy. I understand that, quite a few people still believe in CC as that right tackle. If you do, I respect it. Dante Moore, quarterback out of Oregon, goes at number 6 to the Cleveland Browns. I'm pretty sure he's from the Cleveland area. I'm pretty sure about that. Please fact check me on it. But if I remember correctly, he is from that area, which, he ended up showing out versus Penn State in a whiteout game. I'm actually feeling a lot more comfortable not putting him in the stock report the way that some people wanted me to, because the more I watch Dante Moore, and I still think he's a fantastic QB, I think right now he is my QB3. Really good spot to be in, by the way. Or he's my QB4, excuse me, because I'm a big fan of Mateer, big fan of Mendoza as well as Sellers. But regardless, he's definitely in that top consideration there. I will say that the performance was very, very good. But to put him as when I had 38 players that I thought had amazing games, it wasn't one necessarily that I think on paper ended up outweighing the rest. But still, a fantastic performance. It was more of a proof of concept than an amazing game. And I think that if you guys are going to take it from an objective point of view rather than, kind of feeling it the way that you have with your emotions towards Dante Moore, because I know there's a big cult out there for him, then I think you guys would understand. It's he did a really solid job. And this just ended up proving what we already knew rather than, kind of changing the opinion by having a super stellar statistical game. But regardless, ended up having poise in a very tough environment. Showed that he can still definitely play in that part of the country. So excited to see Dante Moore continue to succeed, man. I'm pretty sure this week he's going up against somebody pretty special. Is it Mendoza? I think it might be. So excited to see Dante Moore in another quarterback show off. Hopefully he does not, you know what? I hope that the best quarterback ends up winning in that showdown. So I'll say that. At number 7, we have the Jets going John Mateer, quarterback out of Oklahoma. New York definitely has shown to be able to utilize mobile quarterbacks. Justin Fields, outside of that Bills game, has been really effective, at least fantasy-wise. But, still, you get to see the production on the ground, which is why he's been so effective. Now, add the passing ability of John Mateer, and as long as he's healthy, this is going to be an absolute home run pick. At number 8, we have the Bengals going Keldrick Falk, defensive lineman out of Auburn. This dude gets utilized everywhere. I don't think he has the athletic traits to really get a buy-in from Cincy, but I totally understand that with Hendrickson probably on the way out. I know he's on the way out. Okay, 99% on the way out. You guys still need to develop at least some type of edge 3 or edge 2, depending on how bearish or bullish you are on Miles Murphy. So we'll see how that ends up panning out. I definitely believe that a bigger edge rusher is on the board for Cincy. It just depends on, how solid do you think Keldrick Falk is? I don't know if the athletic traits are there for this organization to buy in. You look at Miles Murphy, really freaky for his size. You look at Shamar Stewart, freaky for his size. Like Keldrick doesn't fit with that. So that would be the only area where I'd be like, maybe I'd want to look as somebody like a little bit different. Trying to think of someone like Quincy Rhodes is pretty damn athletic for his size, but actually the name that comes to mind is USC's edge rusher that's slipping my mind. He's really athletic for 285. So another guy who I think maybe in the mid rounds could end up being a very good option for this team. At number 9, you still got Garrett Nussmeier, quarterback out of LSU, going to the Miami Dolphins. If he's dealing with a core injury, I don't know if Dolphin fans are going to be extremely excited about having another quarterback with, in this case, a very slender frame and also kind of playing through injuries with the core. Don't know how excited they're going to be about that. Nussmeier does have the anticipatory throws. He has the honor of wearing number 18. And, he's definitely somebody that a lot of people love the mechanics and stuff. I get that. The layered passes are beautiful, but you got to admit the decision making has not been there. Everybody says, oh, I love his processor. And the glaze kind of needs to stop. I'm going to put that out there. The glaze needs to stop for Garrett Nussmeier's processing, because the longer the play goes on, the worse it gets. And he's made back-to-back weeks stupid decisions when the play was overextended. So that's all I got to say, is that one particular area. I understand if you value those traits like anticipatory throws, which are very important to be able to make in the NFL level, layered passes, which again, very important to make in the NFL, and then the leadership also when you're the face of the franchise of a multi-billion-dollar organization. Makes sense. Like, I can understand why you believe it. But again, let's not glaze in areas that do not need to be. All right. Krispy Kreme does not overglaze their donuts. If they ended up just putting too much on, it would not be the perfect balance, right? Just like in this case, you put too much glaze in an area that doesn't need it or doesn't deserve it, you're going to end up ruining the product. And let's not do that. And I think it's still kind of being done right now because some people are trying to cling on to summer evals. At number 10, we got Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State, going to the New England Patriots. If Jordan ever gets to this point, that's the team I end up either moving up for him or ending up taking him. So I definitely believe that is a great move. Hello. At number 11, the Dallas Cowboys go Xavier Harris. Hey, Quincy Rhodes is in this. Xavier Harris, defensive lineman out of Ole Miss. I'm gonna be honest. I do not see this at all. I like Xavier Harris, but I would say like the way I described him on my big board is he's a very fun college player. I do not see him being NFL at all. So pick number 11 is intriguing. A 6'8" guy that you have listed at D tackle as well is intriguing. He's very unique, and I like the idea of giving some guys some shouts. This feels a little early for that. I'm just going to put that out there. Feels a little bit early. And there's a lot of very good defensive interiors in the class. I do not agree with this pick. But I haven't watched Xavier Harris this year. I've seen what he's done statistically. It has not wowed me in any way, shape, or form. But maybe he's having like a Peter Woods kind of thing where the stats just do not add up to what he does on the field. I guess. I don't believe that. Like when he came into the year, I definitely did not see it. But it's good that the coaches rave about his work ethic. That doesn't really get him to pick number 11 for me. At number 12, we got Quincy Rhodes Jr., edge rusher out of Arkansas. So there you go. I ended up mentioning him earlier. So good to see that. But, when you're looking at Dennis Allen, he likes 6'5", 260 plus. There you go, 6'6", 275. I worry about his run defensibility. Like, I'm curious to see. Okay, I'm glad that there's not necessarily this idea that he's like a prime run stopper. Quincy Rhodes is fun though. I would just say watching Arkansas get eviscerated week after week, it is a little bit worrisome because if you have a true top 15 overall first round quality edge rusher, you see them pop up at a much more consistent rate. And I don't think a team like Memphis would have had the opportunity of being able to stop him. So I do worry about that. But Quincy Rhodes Jr. is a very good edge rusher. Again, we're just talking about him more in day 2 than in day 1, but a very good fit for the Bears and one that I haven't really thought too much of. For the Rams at number 13, they go Mansour Delane, cornerback out of LSU. Top corner for me coming into the year. Glad to see that he ends up playing that way. Rams need a top tier corner. It ends up making sense to me. At 14, this is a pick that I've contemplated. The Arizona Cardinals go Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame, especially now that Connor and Benson are on IR. Obviously, Connor for a longer term, Benson for a shorter. Um, definitely some ideas that might be popping around, and I think this might be one of them. And I need my Cardinals fans to let me know what you think of this before I end up destroying the mock draft tomorrow. By the way, the reason why I usually do a mock draft three rounders starting today, or at least that's why I want to have scheduled, I'm absolutely dead inside. So it got me to at least be like, I want to get you guys some content. We're moving Saturday's video to here, and we're just shuffling the videos down a day. So hopefully you guys are fine with that. But Jeremiah Love, I definitely do believe, is a good pick there. I mean, he is the clear-cut top back of the class. If we're going to see Damon Claiborne have some injury bugs, we'll see about how that ends up working out. But Damon Claiborne's the only one who's competing with Jeremiah Love at the moment. At 15, we got Spencer Fano, right tackle out of Utah, going to the Texans. I like it. I mean, obviously, I have Fano at 5. Makes sense for a team that needs offensive line. At number 16, the Pittsburgh Steelers draft Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana, in Pittsburgh. Obviously, I'm going to support this one. Mendoza currently is graded as my number 24 player in the class. Some people aren't going to love that, but I'm not going to overvalue quarterback to that degree. It does get more of a boost than any other position, but I do think he's a solid quarterback. I think the Iowa game was actually kind of sloppy. Pause, but ended up doing a very good job versus Illinois. Ended up having some pretty key mistakes versus Iowa that, I wasn't a huge fan of. Now, it was not remotely, and again, he's still a top 25 player for me, made a huge boost in his grade. Start out the year, quarterback 3 is still quarterback 3. However, it's just a different kind of vibe. This is guys ended up making big strides in terms of the translatability. I would just say, I want to see a little bit more from him in terms of the consistency. That Iowa game, under pressure, he made that very famous slot seam shot, and that was beautiful. But there were 2 other plays under pressure where he ended up throwing it pretty poorly, and the placement was very erratic to where when Surratt would end up doing a slant, he'd have to slow down and stop to where he couldn't maintain momentum. And I thought there was some lost yardage there, and finally ended up fixing it mid-game, ended up having, of course, that last touchdown to Surratt. But I ended up just kind of feeling like Mendoza needs to be a little bit more consistent, and I'm glad that he's at least showing that consistency is more of the issue rather than actual talent. David Bailey, edge rusher / linebacker out of Texas Tech, goes to the Minnesota Vikings at pick 17. I don't think they need to go this route, but if you want to go after somebody like Andrew Van Ginkel's style, then maybe this is going to be up their alley. I'm not really sold on the Vikings needing to target like an edge rusher at the moment. Are they really going to try to just say he's a pure linebacker? Natural pass rusher. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at this, just saying he needs to improve his run defense. Yeah, it looks like he's going to be more of a DPR, which at 17 just feels a little bit rich. At 18, we have Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State, going to the Seattle Seahawks. I've made wide receiver my primary position to target for the Seahawks now for the past week or so, and I think it's a great move. Carnell Tate, hard to disagree with. To me, I still think that he's just a very well-balanced wide receiver, and it's kind of hard just to say no to that. I do think that he is worse than Emeka Egbuka, but he's still a very, very solid wide receiver. Just some high standards there. At pick 19, we have Isaiah World, tackle out of Oregon. Official numbers are under 6'6", but if you guys are wondering about the 6'8" figure, he's been struggling this year. So I'm going to be digging into the Penn State tape a little bit more to understand why he and Harkey ended up having such a hard day as a pass blocker. Obviously, Danny Dennis Sutton's there. I know that they have a true freshman as well at Penn State that is certainly really good competition, but these guys, Harkey is a seasoned veteran, Isaiah World as well. It is quite surprising to see them struggle to that degree in a big game, even though they won. At number 20, we have the Denver Broncos going Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker out of Texas. Linebacker's a good target for him. I prefer Arvell Reese. You guys now get to see what I believe in Arvell Reese below my face. But Anthony Hill Jr. has been the consensus top guy. I understand if you still believe that. Caden Proctor, tackle out of Alabama, goes at 21 to the Indianapolis Colts. Um, I don't really understand this one. Kicking, okay, so playing well as of late and should benefit from kicking inside. So they think of him as a guard. I don't think a guard is a position they need to target at 21. I'm just being honest here. I know he's a freakish build and a really good receiver, apparently. I mean, can you imagine that? Like Tyler Warren, Caden Proctor, the tight end duo. But yeah, I mean, jokes aside, I don't trust this team to develop him in the first place. And then I would just say I don't think guard, like Colts fans, let me know about this. I don't think guard is a first round priority. I definitely haven't seen that. So please let me know about that. 22, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafting Cassius Howell, edge rusher out of Texas A&M. I think this is a great fit. However, I do worry about this for one reason. Howell has confirmed under 31-inch arms. That's a huge red flag to NFL GMs, scouts, etc. He is a crazy athlete off the edge. But to think that he can end up defending the run versus elite technicians that have 3+ inches on him, in terms of arm length, it is a very big pipe dream. And then also tackles in the NFL get faster as well. I mean, the thing is, he is just great off the line, and I love that. But again, when you're talking about the limited role that he will play, it doesn't justify the pick. So I'll just put that out there. But I definitely I like the fit. It's just it's the first round. You just have to have a different level of scrutiny, I should say. 23, we have the Washington Commanders going Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. I mean, Kenyon Sadiq, in my opinion, should have went way earlier than this, but he didn't. Still a fantastic weapon. Great after the catch, really high tier blocker, and great in a straight line. I mean, there's not much that this guy can't do except be 6'6". And even at 6'3", that's perfectly fine. So, huge fan of Kenyon Sadiq. Again, amazing move there for the Commanders. If you can get him, take him. Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver out of USC, goes to the Niners at pick 24. Definition of best player available. It reminds me a lot of, I'm forgetting who it is exactly, but Arizona's wide receiver that they ended up drafting a couple years ago. I actually really liked him too, so it bugs me that his name's slipping my mind at the moment. But, he was actually Tetro McMillan's running mate. Kind of reminds me a little bit of that, but better. So excited to see what Mekhi Lemon would do here. But wide receiver health has been a big problem for San Fran. And, obviously there's been some questions as to like the quality of the room as well. So it's good to just get best player available with a very valuable position for this team for the long haul. At number 25, the Chargers go Dom Orange, defensive interior out of Iowa State. I do think the Chargers need to get someone to be a big plug in the middle. If Dom Orange can stay healthy, I think he'd be great there on the nose. At 26, we have the Grams going back-to-back corners. I think this might have been a typo. I'm just going to be completely honest. I think this might have been he forgot he took Mansour in the first. Because going Mansour and Colton, I love it. Like, I love the idea of somehow finding a way. But with both of your first round picks, and they're kind of different styles of corner too, I can't support that. I do think this is more of an input error. And I've done it before as well. I at least just get to realize it, edit it out, and then redo that part of the video. God bless. But yeah, that seems like a mistake. Going two corners for the Rams does not seem to be a very realistic move in the first round. I'll just put it that way. And it doesn't mention it here as well, because if it did, it's saying like, oh, like corner's huge to overhaul, and I just went best player available both times if it with the value. Different story, but yeah, a little bit worrisome there with going corner twice. But I like the idea if they went maybe with Mendoza with that first pick. At 27, the Chiefs go Vincent Anthony, edge rusher out of Duke. This is a player I'm very excited to grade. He's been statistically very solid, and again, also experience will fit the Spags defense, and so they need a quality edge rusher to get quick wins. So I'm excited to see how Vincent Anthony could do for him. I haven't seen first round out of him, but again, like this is more so the whole entire point of Mock the Mock is one for people who we know we can like really trust their analysis, like Mike Renner. Of course, I'm going to take that a little bit more seriously, but for mocks, and I mean no disrespect to Mr. Brockermeyer because I don't know him on a personal level, but like there's certain times where I can feel like it's more of if I ended up doing a what I would do mock draft and I'm tossing Malachi Lawrence in there, like I feel like it's going to be a little bit more of like how he would steer the ship, right? And maybe it said that at the beginning. So if that does, then this makes perfect sense. But it's also cool to see some of these new players, talk about some of these new players and some of these new fits. So I also value these type of mock drafts as well. Christian Miller, defensive tier out of Georgia, goes at number 28 to the Detroit Lions. I mean, I guess continue loading up on defensive interior if it's best player available. It's never a bad idea. Christian Miller also can play off the edge if you want him to as a big edge. I just need to see the consistency improve from this guy because the ceiling play is ridiculous, but the floor, he needs to go to somebody who can end up like telling him to just be him because he is him. He's that good. At number 29, we have the Cowboys. I almost said Niners. What the hell? The Cowboys going Avion Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. I would really be excited to see the Cowboys target corner because it's a pretty dire position. It's just very difficult to understand how they're going to handle a cap situation. Now, shoulda, woulda, coulda, you could do whatever the fuck you want. But yeah, we'll see how that ends up being handled. And maybe they end up restructuring Diggs. I think they could move him to safety. But Avion Terrell, if they can end up making the money work and making it make sense, I like the pick. Good value. At 30, we have TJ Parker, edge rusher out of Clemson, going to the Baltimore Ravens. Big fan of TJ Parker at this range, especially to a team like the Ravens that need to continue improving their run defense as well. And I think that his size and just overall skill set actually leans in pretty well to balancing out Mike Green as more of that DPR. At number 31, we have the Eagles going Aaron Anderson, wide receiver at LSU. The thing is, this is just extremely unrealistic for this one reason. Howie loves just to throw his 5th-round picks at wide receivers that are like still very talented, but you can pretty much buy him at a discount. It's been the way he's handled things is just acquire wide receiver 3/4 through trade rather than the draft. And I think he's going to continue doing that. I don't think a 1st-round pick would make much sense. And Aaron Anderson at 5'8", I like him again, but it's like this is like a round 4, round 5 kind of issue. So it feels very overvalued. And at number 32, the Bills go Jermod McCoy, corner out of Tennessee. With the way that they ended up handling last draft with the quantity of DBs, I just don't believe that the Bills would be looking to continue. And Dorian Strong's had quite a few really solid weeks. So I do think they might feel comfortable continuing to target defensive back if they want to in the middle rounds, unless they want to go safety, which I encourage them to go after Dylan Thieneman here at 32. But that's going to be the video. Thank you again for watching, showing the love you always do. I'll see you later. Peace.